Hi, welcome to this special audio commentary video on the psychology of my past films. This will consist of all the films that are set in the fictional Agony universe. I'm not going to talk too much about the budget and technical aspects of the film, but instead more on the psychological side, the story narratives, the character core, the hidden memes, along with the hidden subliminal stuff, the direction in terms of visualization, and of course, storytelling through subtext. I hope you enjoy.
We are introduced to our protagonist, LeBron Vlogs. Despite the story set in the 21st century, he is a young man dressed very retro, referencing a style similar to the 1930s and 50s. This correlates with his occupation as an artist. He seems to be methodical and doesn't look all excited for work, pretty much taking his job for granted. Here is the first example of his communication skills, or lack thereof.
Hey, how you doing?
Like shit. Shit. What you forgot is the grand revealing of the Heaven's Gateway.
Oh yeah. It's amazing how those angels are helping the guy with the beard.
That's Jesus.
Oh yeah.
Once he gets a glimpse of the Indigo woman, he starts to get some interest in the subject. A cockroach enters, indicating the gallery is not the cleanest place in the universe. Showing his officious nature, LeBron kills the cockroach and ends up accidentally damaging the painting.
Shit, man! You impaled its carcass into the damn painting.
Relax, we can wipe it off.
Shit, man!
Ah, shit!
In their attempt to repair it, he and his colleagues completely destroy it.
Oh my god!
To cover up the accident, they concoct the lamest story possible, namely that it was eaten by rats. Grand opening at the courtyard. We are introduced to the gallery owner, Georgina, who is very eccentric, probably the most eccentric character in the film, and her nature correlates to the atmosphere of the workplace, giving it a very fantasy-type feel, but with a lot of dark humor. This eccentric fantasy atmosphere helps build the introduction to the leading female character, Charlotte, who is a spiritual woman. The sun rays over her hair kinda shows she is the shining light that's needed for the place. The character has an aura similar to a fantasy princess. LeBron and his friends enter. This is where shit hits the fan.
What's going on here? Nothing. Is that my painting?
Yeah, apparently it was eaten by rats. Rats came in and ate the thing.
Oh my god! Oh my god! Get out. Get out!
Despite the cover story being a success, the damage of the painting has emotionally hurt the Indigo woman. This sends her into a breakdown. Note the dark shadows over him, indicating his depressed mood, a mood of guilt. Here we begin the sub-story of the film. One of the other gallery members, Barco, is putting gambling bets on these illegal fights. Referencing past movies like Hard Times and Bloodsport, setting-wise you could say it's a real-life depiction of Capcom's Final Fight video game. Barco, the gallery worker / gambler, seems to be on the losing end. And it's obvious he has put the gallery in the shits even more.
Why would I want another car, you dick? I want my 20 grand by next week, or I'll smoke your ass!
We move back to the gallery. We see LeBron's good side. He is sketching a picture to cheer up Charlotte, who is standing by a pond. The Mother Nature atmosphere and philosophical words of her mentor, Jessica, is supposed to be therapeutic.
This place is sure a fine garden. It has all the elements that make life. The earth, air, fire, and water.
There is mention of the elements air, earth, fire, water. This is kind of subliminally played throughout the film. It's not a sheer coincidence she's wearing green, which is very much attuned with the garden's setting. LeBron apologizes to her about the situation and giving her a gift before being ordered to return to his duties.
Thank you. It's a beautiful picture.
Get back to work, you oaf.
It's clearly a depiction of an event in the 1400s. Has a lot of mystery and depth to it.
It does have a lot of depth, but I can't seem to make out the meaning.
Very secretive things happened in those days, and the one who did this picture has more to him what we can see.
The conversation that the spiritual folks have kind of indicates that there is more to that man than what meets the eye, as the picture is set in the medieval times and has a ghastly, mysterious feel about it. LeBron fails to replace the lantern, embarrassing himself in the process. Now Professor comes to exhibit his brilliance. He tries to charm Charlotte with his works of Hannibal in the Great Punic War.
Don't any of you two ladies like to see my progress of my painting of Hannibal's rule? It depicts his great victory over the Greco-Persian War.
Hannibal lived in a period of tension in the Mediterranean and was commander during the Second Punic War. That was 200 years after the Great Persian feud.
What?
But Charlotte corrects him with the right facts, giving his ego a bit of a beatdown. She gives a little laugh, indicating his ideas are ridiculous, but at the same time the scene shows her knowledge on ancient history. It has its correlation with LeBron's medieval art, so it's something they have in common. LeBron leaves and heads to the barbecue party with the guys. Here is a bunch of plot points again, indicating that the gallery's in the shits due to Barco's excessive gambling debts.
Shit, 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 shit!
There, the use of the word shit is used a lot. Clearly, they're in the shits. Out of the blue, 3 goons working for the gangster Reno turn up and start harassing everyone. They give Barco the verbal ultimatum that he has limited time to pay off his debts. In an example of overkill, one of the goons goes up to LeBron and humiliates him. This pisses off our protagonist, and this initiates a fight in the backyard. Utilizing a lot of haymaker type punches, referencing a style to that of a Western bar brawl, LeBron clearly has a size and weight advantage over the goons. There is nothing slick in the fighting at all. It shows LeBron's style of fighting is very rough house and unorthodox. Barco sees this as an opportunity to save the gallery and get out of debt. After they forged the most obvious and simple plan known to man, to pit LeBron against Reno's fighter, here LeBron seeks help from his dad. Definitely not the most shining father-son relationships, as his dad puts him down a lot about his abilities and his occupation. Long story short, the guy used to train boxers, and mentioning of his prospects leaving him due to his gym being old-fashioned. This correlates a lot with the clothing the two wear. And this also answers the question why LeBron is so retro based on his clothing style.
Ah, shit!
Get up, you bum!
It's like 4 in the freaking morning!
Get moving!
Bucket of water as a wake-up call for comical effect. Mention of 4 in the morning. Another bogus reference to the 4 elements, or more or less a weird coincidence. His training regime is very old school, pretty much relying on old-timer methods from running, sledgehammering, and wood chopping. The ending advice from his dad are basic and very obvious.
You know what's the greatest key element of any fighter?
Nope.
It's the thing that motivates them. You must always think of the thing you're fighting for.
Ah, shit, that reminds me, I gotta get back to the office.
Remember what I said?
I will.
My ass, you will.
LeBron has a passive mood with him. Clearly shows that his dad must have said this a million times. So we move to the fight. LeBron is depicted as flat-footed, a brawler, or in boxing terms a swarmer type. After missing a shot or two, he gets inside and does damage to the more technically skilled foe. Again, another depiction of LeBron being very raw and unorthodox. He overpowers the lighter opponent and manages to win the battle. But as usual, to push the plot forward, another enemy has been lined up. It's back to work for LeBron, back in the gallery territory. Now we have the Indigo woman giving an outdoor lecture during an art class. This is pretty much the representation of the element of air, as it's set outdoors, and she's carrying a fan. Being a Westerner, she has a top that is from a country in Southeast Asia, and an Asian type fan. This visually shows she has a multicultural taste in her artistic approaches. This is followed by LeBron blending a barrage of protein foods in a blender, a very hideous looking milkshake. It's pretty much the equivalent of modern caveman food.
Oh, Christ! Have you ever tried using steroids instead?
A couple of hours later, Charlotte and LeBron happen to be in the same kitchen. It's a bit of a mirrored scene. One character very colourful, one that is black and white. They're very open to one another, like a butterfly talking to a rock. Kindly, she invites him to her place.
Your ancestor did, or?
Pretty much. Yeah. You can come around and have a look at it tonight if you like. You can learn a few things.
Tonight, yeah, sure, you know, I wouldn't mind learning new things and that.
Great. It was best to come at 7.
Okay, I'll see you at 7.
Shot of the full moon gives an air of mystery. She is clearly a very skilled painter, wearing blue representing the element of water. Some of her furniture speaks for it. The plates of the dolphins are very aquatic, followed by the water jugs. Their conversation is filled with some innocence, but of course it delivers deep into the darker and more depressive side of an artist.
Talk to me. My life has not been an easy one.
What do you mean?
At school, for example, I was always alone.
It's obvious being an artist of a certain level isolates you from society, giving you a bit of a reclusive habit, to the extreme where it could sort of screw you up socially, or alienates you completely away from people. When she re-evaluates his pictures, we see more Dark Age art, coupled with his philosophy of climbing a mountain and then another. It's the indication of a man dealing with obstacles and hazards. Soon she discovers his little hand injury. Being able to read him, it gives LeBron no choice but to man up and tell her the truth about everything.
Okay. I'm sorry. I'm sorry about that.
This makes Charlotte go into an emotional rage, slapping him due to his lies. She is left very distraught. Here is a sad montage, very slow-paced, indicating the character's depressed mood. Despite being down, he still has a lot of gears clicking inside of him. He is in a thinking phase. It's ironic how in the last part of the montage he gets out of his art style comfort zone and decides to paint a coloured portrait, quote-unquote, coloured painting. This, of course, is to compensate for his idiocy and mistakes, something to replace the painting he destroyed. Now, before giving that to her, another fight must happen. Now LeBron is pitted up against a mutant-like brawler named Bolos. Now wearing black, it's an indication of a darker tone being built upon the character and the story. This translates to his fight against Bolos. Nothing slick or savvy, it becomes a backward-forward slugfest. Very little strategy. He does not overcome the enemy by savviness or skill, but through iron will and his hitting power, and his tenacity. After being victorious over the bigger opponent, he proceeds with his next objective. He visits the Indigo woman again, this time showing his physical damage and disorientation. It truly shows how far he is going just to seek forgiveness. Even getting her a doggy and painting her a portrait. She acknowledges his wounds and battered state, and decides to let him in. Wearing the colour of orange and red, this indicates the element of fire. This is even furthered by the presence of a few candles. The atmosphere is very warming and healing. It's something both the characters need, obviously. After providing a bit of healing, Charlotte analyzes the painting, seeing a druid gathering herbs and ingredients during the solar-lunar phase under the full moon. The druid in the picture is wearing a purple cloak, purple being a very intuitive colour. The blank face is that of a mystery, another of LeBron's trademarks. Through the nice warming conversation, LeBron kindly asks Charlotte if he could sketch a picture of her. She gives him that permission and requests that he must capture her true essence in the progress. Next couple of days, LeBron is healed and is setting up for an art session. Charlotte arrives with a new costume, light blue with flowers. The mood is lively, and both characters are communicating well. But there is a major disturbance. Now LeBron must deal with the final obstacle.
Hey, Leb. Holy shit, man, can't you knock? Holy shit. Sorry, we've got a problem. We always have problems. This is the serious one. We need you in office right now, man. Fine, I'll be there in a minute. Will you get out?
The final enemy of the film, a young renegade mafia member. He makes his point clear that he is here for his clan's honor, to fight for ownership of a Japanese art piece, the other half being owned by the Indigo girl's family. This resorts to a cliche duel where the two duke it out. By this point, LeBron is already worn out with the fighting side and is clearly sick of it, but manages to get the upper hand when he intakes some chili and uses the chili juice to blind the opponent. Many can assume he was watching Walker Texas Ranger. The enemy gets up, knowing he has been defeated. He disgracefully pulls out a gun, but is shot by the gallery owner. Ironic that the gun used to kill the renegade gangster is an old-school musket. That's the saying, nothing beats old school. Well, most of the time. Being victorious and getting the art piece, he returns to Charlotte and tells her that it was donated. She, of course, was unaware that a little fight happened. LeBron this time barricades the door before resuming the artwork. So it puts an end to the chapter of artistic agony, showing that LeBron Vlogs has become a changed man. We see him again a few years later. His personality has become quieter and calmer, having characteristics similar to a Kurosawa hero or Sergio Leone's Man with No Name. Unlike the gallery, this combat gym is filled with a much more normal clientele.
Toby, my man, life is chopping us piece by piece. If your apprentices can't get bums on seats, then this business here, it's not going to survive.
Yeah, I know that, but the gym is active.
For how long? Other rival gyms are opening up.
The story revolves around an underground corruption in boxing. Tobias, the gym owner, is in deep trouble. Things are not going well for his business. The mafia dude, Jacob, is like a younger, hip version of the Godfather, accompanied by his beautiful escort. You can tell he's a devil with the ladies. This scene sets up the primary plot point of the story. Tobias, a broken man, his business being in the shits, and has to meet some gargantuous expectations in order to stay afloat.
Hey, Jacob.
You know, they got new positions opening up at that Rose Strip Club.
No thanks, I'm fine with where I'm at.
All right, it's your choice.
In the gym floor, we are introduced to quite a few personalities. Two women who are half-sisters, Jenny and Rain, are getting prepared. One appears to be confident, and the other extremely nervous about being there. You could say one is Lara Croft, and the other is Princess Zelda.
Hey ladies, what's up?
Hey Gabe.
Who's this? Never met her before.
This is my stepsister, Rant.
Like a lot of workplaces, you have your funny man, who tries to charm people with a Roger Moore-like swag. But unlike 007, this man does not have the cool suit, nor the rich cars, or the nifty gadgets. Here we are introduced to one of our physical villains, Dallas. A young man has a bad boy attitude, which is very alluring to women. It's evident the gym receptionist Sarah has developed an interest on him. No surprise that they start flirting with each other. This becomes detrimental to Tobias and the gym itself, causing a hidden rivalry between Tobias and Dallas.
Problem. You on drugs or something?
Oh, I can be your fucking problem. You take some more of your pills, jump in the ring here with me then, eh?
Come on. We're all sensitive UH guys here, right? Let's hug it out.
So, you're not really into combat sports, huh?
Our Roger Moore lookalike janitor is trying to talk to Rain, trying to charm her.
Really? Looks like a leather turnip.
The janitor attempts to use the speedball, or in Rain's words, a leather turnip. He immediately is asked to move on by our old friend LeBron. LeBron, the brooding introvert, starts working the bowl like a symphony orchestra. The shot over shows Jenny doing ab lifts, Rain being closer to the camera, in opposite fashion, hits the punching bowl like she was Lady Macbeth. It's clearly obvious she doesn't belong there, and leaves the area. Some gyms are often described as hell on earth. That being said, it's very earthly, grounded and gritty, no pain, no gain. It pretty much explains why LeBron appears to be in better shape than what he was a few years earlier. Nighttime. The gym team take a break. The janitor battles a Texan fighter in a game of ping pong, while Tobias conducts business over the phone. LeBron is seated, oblivious to the situation as he sketches. Tobias, frustrated on the phone, is a sheer indication that he's been juggling too many balls, and definitely needs his assistant Sarah to aid him. But it's obvious she is spending the night with Dallas, having a taste of mere midnight pleasure. Next is the fight night. Country rock type music creates a bit of an atmosphere for the warehouse arena. The audience get treated to a female fight first, with Jenny pummeling her helpless opponent. Dallas fights a random contender. His opponent appears to be in good physical shape, but is no match for Dallas. Dallas moving forward towards his opponent, cornering him. It's an indication that Dallas is one strong motherfucker, relying a lot on power shots, hacking his opponent in close range and knocking them out. Dallas, celebrating with Sarah, is another jab to Tobias, who has grown madly jealous of the young man. The brooding look in Tobias' eyes shows he awaits the downfall of the pretty boy.
Hey, Toby, how you doing, man? Suppose you saw that fight last night?
Yeah.
Oh, that was something.
Things don't get any easier as Jacob visits him the next day, and wanting to buy a piece of Dallas. Through a heated business conversation, Tobias finally snaps, causing the picture to crumble.
Here's your chance.
Look, I'm sick of sucking dicks, so get the fuck out of my gym!
Suit yourself, but don't go blaming me when you end up in the gutter.
The scene, of course, was introduced with Tobias eyeing a picture of a woman who is his late wife. As Jacob leaves, Tobias attends to the broken picture, kissing it, but the crumbling and breakage of the picture shows the subtle decline of Tobias and his gym. His world is collapsing piece by piece. His decline becomes even more obvious as he cuts his ties with Jenny. He tries to do it diplomatically, but this enrages the Amazon, who tells him to get stuffed. If it were the Dark Ages, she probably would throw a spear at him.
Hero, maybe you should shove your ego pride up your ass.
The subtle words of shit, followed by the sound of the crows, indicate that the man is truly alone. The tone and atmosphere changes as the next scene comes up. We are taken back to the gallery territory. The music is very Irish folk-like. This, coupled with the vegetation and the old-school design of the gallery house, shows it to be a place that maintains its traditional roots. This serves to be a reintroduction to rain. The colours of her clothes and the purple flower on her hair is very lively. A small detail but subtle. She begins exploring the new work area like a tourist in Hogwarts, finding a room with similar colours to her clothes, indicating this will be her new working area. She soon checks one of the other offices and spots the busy LeBron working on a drawing. Her shy knocking indicates her respect for the fellow artists. Through her formal greetings, she shows enthusiasm for the artworks, also displaying her knowledge of the genre and field. This again a reference to the element of air, which is intellect. She displays quite a lot of analytical in this scene. Pretty much rivals LeBron's artistic IQ. She also seems to be brighter on things as opposed to LeBron, who has a much more brooding outlook on society. Clearly he believes that he is a reject, a product of a bygone era. Rain's enthusiasm leads her to discover a watercolor picture, an allegory of heaven and hell containing her image of a former art teacher. She's clearly stumbled on something important. This is followed up by the story Rain tells.
There was an individual who was like a diamond, who she tried to chisel and polish to make him sparkle, but the individual can only sparkle with insanity and paranoia. That.
She said that story.
Not that LeBron is a reject of society, but a man who is now looked down upon by his working community. Rain leaves in a hasty manner.
I should really go and check out the other sections, so I'll see you.
See you.
The creepiness is also reinforced as the cleaner gives her advice.
Hey, Princess, don't go pulling at past strings. The guy's unravelled enough.
The tone starts to get sadder and moodier. A file with pictures is seen as LeBron flicks through them. There is one blank page, which he stops momentarily. He proceeds to put the newly finished picture in the last sleeve. But going back to the empty spot, it was a page for something. It's an Elegy of Emptiness, as this takes place a few years after artistic Agony. Many negative things have happened during that time. Something was probably torn or ripped from him. A montage commences. He broods over some paintings he has done in the past, some of them centered around mysterious events, as well as depictions of unexplainable power and devilry. One picture in particular is the fiery one, Phoenix rising from the ashes. The fiery carnage of the picture prefigures his mood in the next scene. Soon his old buddy Sergio pops in with his goons. From the swanky tone and the flashy attire, you can definitely tell he's with the mob. Him and LeBron discuss business, typical mafia talk. Both are friendly towards one another, but as usual, the negative nature of the syndicate is always remorseless. Sergio, knowing LeBron well and doesn't want any bad blood, leaves the room to let the goons do their business.
Fix it. It's really nice.
After delivering the final blow, he calms himself. Sergio comes back in. He obviously expected this to happen. This little sub-story is never revisited, but it does show where LeBron gets his extra income. A damaged painting, a subtle image of the scars of war. Now we move into the stereotypical nightlife. Teens and young adults dancing in Jacob's club. Dallas and Sarah arrive for a meeting with Jacob. While the deal is being cut purely for plot device purposes, despite his age, he is a devil with the ladies. Despite how quickly and easy the deal goes, Sarah is kind of concerned that everything is flowing a bit too fast. This is later followed by a scene of sad music. Sarah sees Tobias the next morning. The bottle of booze is another indication things aren't going his way. Despite Sarah trying to cheer him up, Tobias is too fueled with rage and hatred over the whole situation.
Over the last few months. Look, I was talking to Dallas about it last night.
What would you have to do, woman, huh? You're gonna bow down to your man like he's your fucking mighty? You're your Jacob's bitch forever! Just leave me in peace.
Fucking throw it, Toby!
The mention of Dallas being a trigger point, this explodes in an argument, which burns down another bridge. The atmosphere changes again as we move back to the gallery. Again, Irish folk music. Rain present as she is painting some colourful and puffy painting. Out of the blue, the mystic enters the scene. Mystic wearing orange and red resembles the element of fire. Fiery element represents a lot of things, from passionate stuff, desire, tenacity.
Best vote from the inside to what's furthest away.
Thank you, I guess. It's good to be versatile.
That's true.
Rain doesn't shy away from furthering her investigation on the gallery's dark secrets.
I've been wondering a bit about the rumours around this place.
The gallery's unofficial history.
The mystic then tells her the story in a style that resembles the horror monologue of Apocalypse Now.
We call it the era of artistic agony.
I see.
In time, there was a feud on leadership between the gallery owner and that woman.
As the mystic's monologue story hits its last quarter, she tops it off with a lighter part emphasizing why she remains here, and for growing its community, etc., etc. As for Rain, who has absorbed the whole story, she is given a question which is a mirrored image of her first scene.
You should bring your sister here.
My half sister. Nah, she's too much of a protein bar for this place.
Oh, you mean one of those Amazon types then?
Yes.
Anyway, I'm going to leave you to it.
Thank you.
Rain resumes her peaceful painting before we cut into Lebron, who is making a coffee in a brooding manner with some dark tunes. The amount of ingredients he puts into this cup is an indication of a complex man, not to mention the whiskey being poured in, which makes it a coffee equivalency of a volcano. This is further acknowledged where Lebron gets a call from Gabe, and he erupts with a bizarre line.
What is it, Gabe? He's what? Ah, shit. Shit, shit, shit! Oh, some things about me never change.
Do what you must, but remember to use your head instead of your balls. Remember, we do not want another agony in this place.
I'll try.
Ironic that the quadruple shit line would be a famous one-liner in the Perth filmmaking industry. So he is called into action. Next we see Jojo, who is the business rival of Jacob in the club. He has the aura and swag of a young fresh prince. Soon he engages in his business conversation with Jacob, only to be interrupted by the drunk Tobias, who wants to reap vengeance on Jacob. Through an urban sluggish argument, Tobias assaults the fresh prince. This makes Jojo call out his super goons to attack Tobias. What results is a cliche bar fight.
Talking to you, bro. Bro. Okay. Alright. Hey, how about you not try to relate to me and talk like a white man?
What, you got a problem with what I'm saying?
Man, get this bitch!
What's happening?
Dumbasses always get their day.
Bloody hell!
Lebron enters the fray, and him and Tobias thrash the operation.
Nah, I'm not letting you assholes leave here till we're through. None of you suckers are getting out of here till we're done with this shit. Garrett! Huh. Huh.
Shit. You yours, boy.
After seeing his goons thrash, Jojo gets an epiphany. He knows he must team up with Tobias to take down Jacob. He negotiates the next day. All agree with each other's terms and strike a deal. Jojo smokes Jacob, Tobias's gem is saved, and all what Lebron has to do is fight Dallas in 2 weeks. After the triple fish shake resembling the Triforce, we hit montage territory. Training regimes of both men are pretty much polar opposites, Dallas relying on the typical boxing gym-oriented stuff, whereas LeBron seems to be going through a lot of medieval things, a cross between stonecutter and lumberjack. Old school conditioning. As it ends with a speed bowl, aka leather turnip, get a bit of dialogue.
So, hey, what made you decide to want to help me?
Well, your shower needs a new heater and you need a lock on the door.
But no, seriously, what made you want to help me?
Well, I've got a few dozen reasons.
Okay. Thanks anyway.
Prior towards the main event, LeBron goes back to his gallery to do a few things. The presence of rain is something he didn't expect in his office. He sees that his broken art piece has been fixed, cobbled together. Camera pans over a few items. A robe with a dragon, 2 stones, one dark, one light, pretty much a reflection of light and darkness. He sees her painting the bloody moon. The reflection goes over the sea. The scene covers the element of water, which relates to darkness, emotion, mystery. Here Rain talks about a dark hidden secret within her family's past.
People say I'm demented.
My ancestors back in East Anglia in the 1600s were accused of heresy and witchcraft. They had to flee for Scotland and Wales. My family, they always tried to hide the past, but it's not always that easy. You sound like you've lived through the plague.
Life is filled with them.
Rain continues to paint her portrait with complete focus, creating an atmosphere of control. LeBron decides to help on the painting. Ironic that he just happens to be left-handed.
Easy on the phone, just gently. Gently, like soft.
Knowing how to give the right orders, she obviously is the more powerful character of the scene. LeBron asks if he could paint a picture of her. It's pretty much for the first time in the film LeBron's analytical seems to be off course. He gets back to his senses and resumes his mission, grabbing the dragon cloak before leaving. The scene ends with a cutaway of the bloody moon, a sign of Mars, the god of war. Now we have come to the final battle. LeBron wearing the dragon robes patrolling the ring. Tobias and Jojo are confident that they will be victorious. Jacob, of course, believes his man will win.
Fight with the Barbie in the Amazon. It's pretty good, eh?
Hey, my man.
So,
Just like you requested, no fancy introduction, just slam bang it over, right?
explain.
Now, you gonna make sure your boy wins, you dig?
Yeah, it's still covered.
Hey, you ready to put the money where your mouth is?
I never back down on a bet.
I must admit, man, you got some balls for taking on this event. But don't go whining to me when shit hits the fan.
Nah, it's all or nothing. I got nothing to lose.
It's the end.
Giving a verbal threat to Tobias, that is, it's the end. Dallas enters to a back alley punk type music, which helps create the atmosphere of danger. It's obvious this fight will need a massive referee. Ironically, he kinda resembles the late Bud Spencer. So we begin the first round, which is more of a feeling out process. LeBron constantly switching between Southpaw and Orthodox, causing massive confusion for Dallas. The weird music also gives it a confusing atmosphere. This pretty much explains the game plan of LeBron and Tobias, which is to confuse Dallas, mentally break his will, then beat the crap out of him. The round ends in a scrappy manner. Despite taking Dallas's best blows, LeBron smiles back, indicating the shots have no effect. A big psychological blow to Dallas and his corner. During the break, it's obvious LeBron's corner team is not the most proficient. They have no ice bucket. LeBron's only form of liquid is his whiskey flask. It must be a super whiskey. Also, LeBron has to inform the pirate-looking fella to put the mouth guard in. Round 2. The music is more psychotic, and the round is more savage. The power shots land with more regularity. And it becomes a seesaw contest. Dallas drops LeBron for the first time with a left hook. Very devastating, but LeBron gets up smiling, visually implying that it ain't shit. This becomes a concern for Sarah as she sees Dallas get pummeled in the corner, then dropped. LeBron ends the round with a flurry, leaving Dallas kinda bloody. It's obvious Dallas doesn't have much left in the tank, as he is walking like a pulverized zombie. He bravely steps into round 3. The music is automatically triumphant. As LeBron immediately starts pummeling Dallas into smithereens. Tobias and Jojo are enjoying the moment, where Sarah is confused about what she should do. She eventually decides to jump into the ring, throwing the towel, saving Dallas. Tobias gives a verbal jab to Jacob, saying, "It's the end."
The end, boy. Well. Looks like the pretty little white boy just got his ass whooped to the moon and back! That was an action-packed fight. Yeah, that was pretty good. But you'll never, ever be able to beat the combative brains of this genius Tobias. Oh, his mind is incorruptible. His fight is indestructible. Oh my god, jeez. Now,
Seriously, this guy needs an Oscar. Jacob admits his defeat and pays Jojo and Tobias. We get a wacky music and a happy bundled up ending for Tobias and his gym. We get a wacky music and happy bundled up ending for Tobias and his gym. It pretty much wraps up that story arc. Now we move back to the gallery territory for the last time. LeBron walks into his workplace with a kind of happy music. He has shaved off his devil beard, and his attire seems more lively. We see a picture of a dog and a man. In regards to the artwork, the dog in the picture is a reference to the elderly dog we saw in the start of artistic Agony. Two artists talk about the picture in a unique manner. LeBron enters, and it feels a bit like the Three Stooges, because there's 3 of them.
And how was the Amazon?
Oh god, it was awful. I mean, mosquitoes biting me all over the place, so many death traps I had to avoid, and all the tall, strong women trying to cook and eat me. God, I am going to write a book about it.
Well, actually, I was referring to the forest. The Amazon forest.
Even though this character made his first appearance in artistic Agony, it was really this scene which paved way for his other occupations. As in later films, he would be a professor and an archaeologist dealing with the paranormal. LeBron leaves the room in a quiet manner and makes his way to his room. Ironic that he knocks. The camera pans upwards. We see a collection of candles before seeing Rain, dressed in a black druidic clothing, giving it a bit of a medieval type feel. She has created a very ethereal atmosphere. This is the fifth element, which is the spirit. The film ends with LeBron ready to paint Rain. The last shot is a cutaway of Rain with a dark background. Fading to black gives it a mystical ending.